Came out 2 years ago, has 707 horsepower, goes 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, and it costs $69,000. Okay? Look at the pace of change in 17 years. By the way, just in case you feel bad for Ferrari, this is something called a LaFerrari. Came out a couple of years ago, has 1,001 horsepower, goes 0 to 60 in 2.1, costs $1.8 million, and it's a hybrid. So that's my actual car. And in Canada, we have these HOV lanes that you're allowed to drive in if you have a hybrid vehicle. So I have a hybrid sticker. The best thing about the car is when I drive it in rush hour traffic in the HOV lane and everybody else is stuck, the incredible nice waves with one finger I get from the other people. It creates a lot of conversation. Do you know the only industry that moves faster than every other industry? Technology. Think about the pace of change in our world. If you're not comfortable with change, you should probably go home and go to a manufacturing association meeting or any other industry meeting, because we're all about change. So I have this amazing stat. There's roughly 3.5 billion people connected to the internet today, and there's something like 7 or 8 billion IP addresses. The IPv committee says by 2020, there'll be 5 to 6 billion people connected and trillions of IP addresses. So you can't comprehend that. Your mind can't comprehend that. Somebody my age who's old can't comprehend that. I still use a mouse. I gotta tell you a funny story about change. The other day I'm at the airport and I use a Mac and I carry my own mouse, external mouse, and a mouse pad. Like, it just makes me comfortable. So this young lady in her 20s comes up to me. She goes, "Oh my God, Mr. Herjavec, I'm such a fan of the show. Can I get a picture?" And I'm like, "Sure." By the way, we're the #1 show on television for families, so I'm very proud of that. But she comes up, we take a picture, and she's so excited. She tells me she's going to Berkeley or somewhere studying something. And she looks at me working with my computer, my mouse, and my mouse pad. And she says, "You know, your computer comes with a built-in mouse." And I'm like, "Yeah, I knew that." Anybody remember this device? It's called a modem. This is something called a Telebit Trailblazer modem. I sold the first one in Canada. Here was my sales pitch to customers. "Hi, I have a modem, it goes 19.2. And you know what customers would say? "Get out of here. There's nothing that goes that fast. I have a Hayes 9600. It can't be faster than that." So that's my actual modem. I kept it. Imagine explaining a modem to a millennial. So I go to my kids and I go, "This is a modem. You used to buy a computer, take a cable, hook it up to an external device called a modem, take that, plug it into a wall, and then you would connect." And my kids are like, "That's stupid. There's no value of a device that's not connected to the internet." And I'm not talking about, I'm old, but I'm not that old. I'm not talking about 50 years ago. I'm not talking about 100 years ago. I'm talking about a handful of years ago. And what's driving that is the Internet of Things. I know it's a big buzzword, but it's really true. Do you know one of our biggest industries last year for security was mining? Do you know why? Mining is one of the highest automated industries in the world. Everything's connected to the internet. The trucks, the big trucks that they use in mines, do you know they're not driven by human beings? Interesting stat. When they are driven by human beings, it's always a female driver because they consider male drivers too aggressive. But most of them are driven automated with GPS because the tires are so expensive. The average tire costs $200,000, so they create a path for this truck to go on in order to save wear and tear on the tires. It's incredible. So we've got the Internet of Things happening. growing like crazy. You guys know what this is? This is the cloud. Do you know why a bunny is like the cloud? Because when you get one bunny, and then you add another bunny in the corner, you know what you get? This is the cloud in your company. And you know what your official CIO, CEO position is? We only allow certain cloud devices. Cloud is proliferating. Every company is moving to the cloud. Applications. Splunk's in the cloud. Doug, how long has Splunk been in the cloud? 3 years? Yeah, and I bet you the adoption rate of cloud services is growing faster than other ones. I used to think people would move to the cloud because of cost savings, and there's an element of that. But what we hear from customers is time to value, deployment time to go to the cloud. And then the problem with the Internet of Things, more stuff, more cloud, is visibility. Most companies have this general fog in different areas of how to connect devices, how to get logs, and that's fundamentally what we do with security is we use Splunk as a tool to ingest more log sources, more data, in order to get a clearer picture. The other trend that I've seen is, so I've been on TV now for 8 years, I couldn't get a meeting with a CEO if my life depended on it. Unless there was like a big TV thing or something, but I could not meet with a CEO, sometimes with a CIO. Security just wasn't hot enough. It was interesting, it was important, and lots of breaches happened, but somehow executives did not see security as a main driver in a company. I just saw this slide this morning. Who exerts the most pressure on you related to IT security? This is a question asked of most CISOs. And look at this, 46% board of directors. The fundamental shift in security in the last 24 months is it's become an executive decision. 25% of my time now is spent with boards and senior executives who have a mandate to fix security. And a lot of it is compliance driven. I guarantee you there's going to be more laws and rules for compliance. I guarantee you you're going to have to prove identity, visibility, and all that stuff on your network. And so that's a big trend that we also see. The challenge is, how do you find people who know Splunk, right? Because everybody in this room who knows Splunk is really valuable. Now, layer on your knowledge of Splunk with your knowledge of security, you become really valuable. And how do you continually find enough people that want to do that? So imagine, you know Splunk, you know security, we're going to build a SOC. And we're going to hire you to sit there at 2 in the morning and watch logs, because this is the most exciting thing in your life, right? People are like leaving Stanford to come work for you to do this. It's really hard. And so the final part of it is, how do you find enough expertise to do it? So managed security is the fastest growing niche in the computer field. And it's extremely fragmented. You have people that manage devices, and you have some people that manage logs and data and analytics. We do both, but it's hard to find the talent, it's hard to stand it up, and it's hard to do a good job with it. How we started with Splunk, I mean, we've known the Splunk team as a reseller and a partner for about 2-3 years. But years ago, I'll tell you, our application was Splunk. And it was about 7-8 years ago. So we were a small Canadian company, today we're global, and a wonderful thing was happening. We were selling more managed services. A not so wonderful thing was happening. Every time we sold more managed services, we had to hire more bodies in a direct correlation. If I got a customer that was this big, I hired this many people. And so our sales were going up, we were selling more stuff, but we weren't making any money. So I brought in all my tech people into a room, and I put up this big board, and I drew a line that was the growth of managed services, and then I drew another line in the same relationship which was the growth of our cost for people to do security. And I said to my team, what do you see there? And they said, we see tremendous growth. And I said, we see tremendous growth in managed security. I said, no. What we're doing is we're becoming a consulting business. Every time we add a customer, we have to add a body. We can't afford it. Not only can we not afford it, our customers can't afford it. All we're doing is being a body shop, replacing bodies, and we need to make more money doing this. So I challenged the team to go out, find me a tool that can ingest massive amounts of logs that we could add analytics to and come up with some data. So our tier ones will look at smarter stuff before they just go through it. And that's how we got to Splunk. We found Splunk. Our first application of Splunk was as a user, not as a reseller or a partner. And that was, 8 years ago. And today, we, compared to companies our size, we're about 200 million. We have a fraction of the people in most SOCs because we're able to take a lot of that garbage away from the human beings. You know, managed security is not about finding a needle in a haystack, which a lot of managed people say. It's about eliminating the noise in order to find the relevant data. So we play in Splunk. We watch Splunk 24/7. We offer Splunk services in the cloud, on-prem, public cloud. And not only do we know Splunk, but we know a lot of use cases around Splunk. Do you guys know what this is? This is an incredible device called the refrigerator micro toaster thing. Every morning when I wake up, I go and I touch a fridge, I touch a microwave, and I touch a toaster. And most of you in this room do too. I'm pretty confident that for the next 20 years, no one is going to make a device that combines all three. Would you agree with me? But you would think logically, they're all in the kitchen, they all kind of serve a similar purpose. Why isn't it one device? It's because best of breed. There is something fundamentally unique about the space that we play in, and that is that new technology quickly usurps existing technology when the existing technology is no longer great. Think about that. How long have we all been doing this? And there's always best of breed. I guarantee you, 2 years from now, when we all go to RSA and we talk about new technology, it'll be something we don't know today. Part of that is because the hackers get faster, there's new threats, and part of it is stuff just doesn't work together. It doesn't make sense. That's why to us, Splunk in the SIM world is going to change the dynamic. A traditional SIM cannot keep up with the log sources and the tools that you need in order to get that cohesive picture. And so we think that there's a bright future. We think that you're going to continue to use Splunk. And we think that what we see from our customers is when you deploy Splunk as a SIM, the use cases really start to grow exponentially and the application of it. So that's my technical stuff and my little view of the market. As Doug mentioned, has anybody ever watched Shark Tank? Oh, thank you. That wasn't really a great response. You know, I'm a big TV celebrity. I'm used to bigger. Does anybody want? Oh, please. I don't need your pathetic claps. Does anybody watch Dancing with the Stars? Woo! Woo! Probably not. Admit it, sir. You only watch it because your wife makes you. And what I learned very quickly, there's a reason the female dancers are dressed so skimpily in order to retain the male viewership. So I was on the show a few years ago, so I want to give you some stats around that because I found that a really interesting experience. Shark Tank was started in Canada. The mean bald guy, Kevin, and I are both Canadian, and we used to do the show in Canada. And by the way, just in case you feel bad for yourself about Trump and what happened here, Kevin is running for Prime Minister of Canada.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Keep Trudeau.
Okay, and so we started doing the show, and a funny thing happened with our show is we weren't supposed to survive. So in the first season, we barely made it, second season, so on. Today, we're the #1 show for families on television, which I'm really proud of because kids watch the show. And if you walked around with me, the first thing you'd notice is how many kids, over half the people that recognize me, come up to me, and are excited to see me are children. I don't mean like 20-year-old kids, I mean like 8 years old, 10 years old, and they know the show inside out. And it's really funny, when Kevin and I walk through an airport, I'll walk along and kids will be like, oh, Mr. Herjavec, I love the show, can I get a picture? And I'm like, sure. And then people will come up to Kevin and go, you're such an asshole. And he'll turn around and go, that's Mr. Asshole to you. He loves it. He really loves being hated. But our show is very real, but we know nothing about the people. So I'm on TV 3 times a day, 365 days a year. I film 17 days a year. That's it. 8 days in June, 9 in September. I show up, I sit there. People come out the door. I know nothing about them. None of us do. And they're usually in front of us for about an hour and a half. We ask them questions. There's 20 cameras. We argue with each other, and we go home. That's it. And then ABC cuts that into as many shows as they need. It's the easiest gig in the world. So when ABC asked me to do Dancing with the Stars, I never read the contract. I saw it was 12 episodes. So I figured, well, how long can 12 episodes take? And so, you get on the show, and you meet your pro. In my case, I had Kim, and she was the world ballroom champion, and I was petrified. I'd never danced before. When I first met her, she was like, all right, it's a very complicated, very athletic show. Show me how you dance. I'm like, I don't dance. She's like, okay, no, I get it. She goes, you're at home, you're by yourself, the music comes on, how would you move? I'm like, I'm not getting the question. Like, I don't know where you're going with this. So I went from that to 3 weeks later thinking I was the best dancer in the world. I thought, I don't know why she's been dancing since she was 3, because this is easy. I can do that rumba. I got this, baby. And then the day before the first show, they bring you on set, which they've never shown you before, and I found out why. You walk in, and it's huge. There's 1,000 people live and 15 million people watching at home. And you walk out and you're standing there and you're like, holy crap,